So in this section, we will be seeing about the part 3 lecture of module 2, that is the digitization of video signals and source coding. So we have to understand that we are going to do both the source coding as well as the channel coding. That is the main limitation of transmitting a digital TV data is the concern about its bandwidth requirement. So when we are going to transmit our data, first of all, we have to do compression algorithms. That is, we mean that we are going to employ source coding techniques. So this is done in order to reduce the possible bit rate. And while reducing the bit rate, we should not compromise in quality. And another thing, we have to employ channel coding along with the source coding. So we have to use powerful error correction algorithms with the most efficient modulation techniques. That is, we have to take care of what is the available bandwidth and what could be the errors or imperfections or noise which may be introduced into the transmission channel. So for that, we are employing channel coding. So in this section, mainly we will be discussing about the source coding technique. So understand we have to employ both the source coding and channel coding before getting the original data. So at the transmitting side itself, we have both the source coding and channel coding. Now in the digitization of video signals, these are the main steps, that is source coding and multiplexing is done, and also in the channel coding and modulation techniques are employed before it is being up converted and sent as a high frequency signal to the broadcasting network. Okay, so in the first we have to understand the source coding has to be done. It can be any type of coding like the JPEG coding, NPEG coding. In case of moving pictures, we do MPEG coding. Or if it is a fixed image, we can do JPEG coding. There are several types of coding. And finally, we will multiplex it and send it to a channel. On the channel, we have to do forward error correction algorithms, powerful algorithm technique. That is, error may get introduced in the channel. And then we have to do filtering, modulation techniques, etc. Okay, so in taking into account of the fact that we can transmit many programs. So here we are having the transmission of n program. Many programs can be transmitted on a single RF channel. So a sequence of operations here is shown, which is to be performed on the transmitted side. Okay, so these are the operations which is being done: source coding and channel coding. So when we are speaking of the compression of the video, the source coding techniques. So in order to reduce the bit rate only, we are doing it. Okay. For example, you consider the case of our 4:2:2 format. So in the earlier lecture, we have seen that a bit rate of almost 200 megabit per second was required. But if we are employing our JPEG or MPEG compression algorithm, this is going to reduce the bit rate up to 3 to 4 megabit per second. So generally we have to use this compression algorithm if possible. That is, we can employ either the spatial redundancy technique or temporal redundancy technique. What do you mean by spatial redundancy technique? That is used in the case of fixed pictures. That is, we are employing the JPEG algorithm. That is, we are correlating of neighboring points within an image. So if we are having the possibility of correlating the images which are near together, that is called as the spatial redundancy. And in the case of moving pictures, okay, in the case of continuously moving pictures or video, we prefer MPEG compression technique. So that is, we mean the temporal redundancy between the successive image in the case of MPEG. That is, if in between the time, if we can relate the images, okay, that is we called as temporal redundancy, that is relating to the time. And in the case of spatial redundancy, it is relating to the space. So in the subsequent section, we have to learn in detail about the JPEG coding and the MPEG coding. Now understand that the compression of video is mainly done in order to reduce the bitrate requirement, and two types of compression algorithms are generally applicable to any type of data which can exploit either the spatial redundancy or temporal redundancy. One is relating to space and another one is relating to time. So what is the need for doing this particular source coding? That is, the requirements are given. Mainly it is done in order for reducing the bit rate, that is owing to the bandwidth limitation, and also it is going to save our time. It reduces the cost, it meets the real-time requirements, and mainly if you are seeing a system as a whole, if you want to consider a system which is having a processor, etc., the memory requirement also it is going to be reduced in the case if you are going to do source coding. So owing to all these, we can go for source coding techniques. There is a need for compression. So there can be actually two types of compression techniques, that is the lossless and lossy. Okay, so in the case of lossless compression, whatever original data we are compressing and restoring, we are not going to eliminate any type of data. But in the case of lossy, we can eliminate some data which is not that noticeable. Okay, so in the case of the lossy type of compression, it is actually irreversible process. But in the case of lossless, it is reversible. We are not going to delete anything. So the quality is also in the case of lossless compression, we are not going to compromise on data quality. Whereas some quality can be compromised in the case of lossy compression. Okay, so if we are having suppose images, audio, video, such type of data, we can actually employ a lossy compression. Okay, some unwanted or some not that much noticeable data can be dropped. But if we are having a text or a voice, that type we can have only lossless compression. That is, we cannot lose any of our data. So this is a basic difference between the lossless and the lossy type of compression. In the case of lossless uh, compression, now we are going to see about the run length encoding and Huffman encoding. Both it's following a lossless compression technique. Whereas when we are learning about the JPEG technique, the discrete cosine transform, etc., they all are type of lossy compression technique. So seeing about the run length encoding. So the basic concept of run length encoding means that when we are transmitting a long series of identical element, okay, continuously we are repeating some of the element, then we can use a code so that the number of bits which is going to represent that becomes small. Okay, so this is not going to lose any information. As I told, it is not a type of lossy, and this method is commonly employed for file compression techniques and also in fax machines. So when we look at the example of run length encoding, see this is our original data and see how the compressed data code is turning to be. So here B is repeated 9 times, A 16 times, N 1 time, M 10 times. So if we are having such a code, we will be able to understand. This is how run length encoding is employed. Another example, see, we are represented it by means of bits, zeros and ones. So each time before a 1 occurs, how many number of zeros are there? So it is following a general pattern. If it is following a pattern like such, we can code in this manner. So here 14 times it is occurring, zeros is occurring prior to one transmission. Again 4 times 0 is occurring prior to one transmission. So likewise we have coded it. Okay, so here 0 times and here 12 times. Okay, so there are number of zeros before the first one. So likewise here run length encoding is being implemented. Okay, so by looking at these two particular examples, we can understand that if we are transmitting similar bits or similar data in a stretch, then we can go for run length encoding technique. Another one is the variable length coding or the entropy coding. Okay, in this case, we have to understand that all the elements, they are not going to be equiprobable. That is, if we are having, say, a total number of n bits, okay, so there will be 2 raised to n possibilities as we consider, for example, if there are 8 bits, the bits can assume either value of 0 or 1. So how many values possibility? 2 raised to 8, that is 16 bit possibilities will be there. Okay, So if it is not probable, then we can go for variable length coding technique. So what is the basic principle is that in order to transmit, we will go to encode the most frequent elements with less than n bits and less frequent elements with more bits, resulting in an average length that is less than a fixed length of n bits. So this statement, it indicates a basic principle of a variable length coding. It can be better understood with the help of an example. So which bits are going to occur more frequently? We will find out that, and we will encode it with less than n bits, and which is occurring less frequently, that we can encode with more bit. Okay, so that better understood with the help of an example when we proceed. And however, if this is to be done in real time, it requires a previous knowledge of the probability of occurrence of each possible element. So this is a condition. If we want to do this variable length coding, first of all, we must know the probability of occurrence of each element. So that is a condition. This method can also be applied for text compression and video compression by means of DCT. That is for a technique like our JPEG algorithm, when we are considering fixed image, we go for this DCT type of technique where the energy, it will be concentrated only on a small number of coefficients. So this type of variable length coding can be applicable in DCT type of technique. That is a discrete cosine transform. Now, we have written here the general equation, that is, if we are considering the information quantity Q, which is being transmitted by an element, it is equal to the logarithm base 2 of the inverse of its probability of appearance of P. That is, the element, it is occurring with the probability of occurrence of P. Then the information quantity, it will be represented as log to the base 2 of 1 by P. So if we are summing all such Qs, that is a sum of information quantity of all elements generated by a source, and then we are multiplying it by their probability of appearance. That is, when we are multiplying this Q by P, then it becomes the entropy H of the source. So the equation for the entropy H of the source is as given here. And the most common, well-known method for the variable length coding is the Huffman algorithm. It assumes the previous knowledge of probability of each element. So here, as an example of variable length coding, now I'll illustrate an example for the Huffman algorithm. So this, remember, these are the equation of the information quantity transmitted, and this is the equation for the entropy of the source. So each element is classified in order of decreasing probability, forming an occurrence table. So if we are having, say, a number of characters, and we must know how much frequently this is going to occur. So first of all, we will look at two elements and we are going to group it, and we will assign a probability. Okay, so which is the lowest probable, for that we assign a bit 0, and to another we assign the bit 1. Similarly, we do for all the elements. Again, we consider a new element and again we group it. So again, we will assign bit 0 and bit 1, and this process, it is going to continue until all the elements have been coded. That is, at the last, we have to ensure that the sum of the probability is going to become 100%. That is, if we take the probability of last two elements, it has to be 100%. This is how the Huffman coding tree is being built. Okay, so this example we will be seeing. For example, there are characters say A, B, C, D and E, and what is the first condition for doing this Huffman algorithm? We must be able to know how frequently these characters are going to occur. So A is occurring 17, B is occurring 12 times, C is occurring 12 times, D is occurring 27 times, and so on. Okay, so how do we proceed with the Huffman coding? So first of all, we consider these characters and how much frequently this is being occurring. So first I am going to take B and C, because that is the one which is going to occur very much less frequently, and I will combine it. Okay, and next I will consider the A, which is occurring again the less frequently, and I can combine it. So again I can group with this and D and E. Okay, and then finally when I combine all this, the probability it will be 100. So now I am going to assign in the next step the bits 0 and 1. For example, when I have grouped, okay, this together, I have assigned the zeros and ones, and a character's code, it is found by starting at the root and following the branches that lead to the character. So when I see this particular Huffman coding, I have to ensure that that zeros and ones are put. For example, if I am coding, say first which one I am coding, I am going to consider B and C. So I can assign here 0 for B and 1 for C. Okay. So then I am going to combine A. So in the next case, I will put here 0 and this is going to be my 1, this branch. And again, when I am combining D and E, I can put 0 for this particular D link. Okay, since it is having the frequency of 27, and for E which is occurring with the probability of 32, I am going to assign a 1. Okay, then finally I have, when I combine, I get the value of 100. So likewise you have to assign with 0 and 1. So in the first case here, I am going to assign for the here 0 and here 1. And in the second case, again, how can I do? A is having an occurrence of 17, whereas this combined I get 24. So here I can assign 0. So likewise assign 0 and 1 bits. So a character's code, it will be found by starting at the root, that this is our root, and following the branches that lead to the character. For example, when I am considering 0, okay, what will be the code value of this A? It will be 0, 0. And what will be the code value of B? It will be 0, 1, 0. And what will be the code value of C? It will be 0, 1, 1. And likewise, for E, it will be 1, 1. So how many total number of bits are required is being found out. That is total in this particular example, 224 bits are required. That is 2 bits are there for the elements of A and D and E and its frequency with which it is multiplied, and 3 bits are there for B and C. So totally we get the value of 224 bits. Okay, so this is how we are going to employ the Huffman coding. That is, at the starting of this, we have to identify the least frequently occurring element. In this case, it is B and C. So we are grouping it. So we have assigned there 0 and 1. So as you can see there, when we are considering the B and C, we have taken here 0 and 1. And next, when we are grouped with A. Okay, so here again A will be having the less frequent value. So there we have put 0 and here we have put 1. And what we have did next, we have combined D and E, and in D and E you can observe D is having the less probable value 27. So there we have put a 0 and here we have put a 1. And again when we have combined here, so as you can see, when we are combining, again this is having a higher value, that is 27 plus 32. So for that branch I have assigned 1. Okay, and for this branch 0. So again the code for each of these character, it will start from the root node and it will proceed to that character. So what will be the code value for D? It will be 1, 0. So this is how Huffman coding is being done. So in this particular section we have discussed about how the digitization of videos, that is we have to do both source coding and channel coding, and we have discussed about the source coding, run length encoding and the Huffman encoding.